My name is Crystal and welcome back to our YouTube channel, Bible-Based Teens. Today is Sunday, September the 21st, and this is our follow-up video to our scripture from last week, Psalms chapter 4, verse 1. And so before we get into that, I do want to say if you like the content of this channel, please do like and subscribe, and you'll be able to get the content week after week. So let's get into it. So our scripture verse from last week was Psalms 4, verse 1. And that was all about King David calling on God for mercy and relief from distress. And one of the main takeaways from last week was that King David knew that God was bigger than all his problems. So basically, I just wanted to share with you guys something that went on in my own personal life last week that really showed me that God was very much bigger than all my problems and just bigger than everything that I was going through. And not only that, just my personal God, so basically what happened was that I had to go to court last week, Tuesday, for an ongoing court case. And, it's just a crazy case that's been going on. And so just the night before, one of my friends, she was really upset. And I was on the phone with her trying to console her. And I was saying to her that, it's my personal belief that God bottles up every single tear that we cry in a jar and pours them out for us when he's ready to bless us. And so we talked and she felt better and, we got off the phone. So flash forward to the next day when I was in court myself, I started feeling anxious and nervous. And, I just was like, let me step outside the courtroom and get into my Bible and see what the Lord has to say. And so basically this particular day when I opened up the Bible, I opened up to Psalms 56. And as many times as I've read the Bible, as many times as I've come across certain scriptures, I've never come across a scripture about God bottling up our tears. And so I came to verse 8, Psalms 56, verse 8, and it started talking about how God bottles up our tears and writes them in his book in heaven. And it just made me feel like God was so near to me. He was not only the God of, my children, the God of my coworkers, the God that I teach my children about, the God that I pray to, or the God that I go to church for. No, he was my personal God, my Father in heaven above. He was listening to me. He was watching over me. He had his hand resting on me. It just made me feel such a level of comfort and peace. And, this is powerful because it made me feel like he's just so near to us and he's so personal to us. And so it just made me feel like, no matter what we're going through, God is right there. He's just waiting for us to invite him into our lives so he can be there, right there with us by our side. And so it just made me feel like this scripture is just so real to me. So thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, I'll be back next week with another video. Have a good evening.